Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Magic Podcast. This week's topic trap cards, otherwise known as It's a Trap! Don't Run It. I'm Jam, and
And we are not talking. Sorry.
I'm Jam, and this is Jude. Jude, you want to say
Hello.
something?
Yeah, I was going to say we are not talking about the instant subtype from Zendikar. We mean cards that are relatively highly played despite being kind of bad. Right? Your cards that look better than they are.
I saw the. So, my definition of trap cards is cards that, when you put them in your deck, you are expecting them to do one thing, but they either hurt your game plan or don't do anything at all.
Okay.
Like they'll either be like, "Oh, this is doing so much work," because you think they're gonna do so much work for you, but then they do absolutely nothing. And we'll get into it with some of our card choices. So
Yes.
first is my card, Strixhaven Stadium. This is an artifact for 3 colorless. It has tap, add a colorless, put a point counter on Strixhaven Stadium. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to you, remove a point. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, remove a point counter from Strixhaven Stadium. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to an opponent, put a point counter on Strixhaven Stadium. Then, if it has 10 or more point counters on it, remove them all and that player loses the game. What do you think of this card, Jude?
I think that this is a 3-mana rock that doesn't tap for colored mana, so we're not starting in a good place. I would also say, if you're hitting someone 10 times, you're probably already killing them. And, you can get cute with it a little bit, but it's neither here nor there. What were you going to say?
I say this is a 3-mana rock that makes every single opponent turn their heads, look at you, and go, "I'm going to kill you now."
Yeah, that as well.
Because everybody goes, "Oh no, if you get 10 counters on it, you can kill one of us," and they don't want that to happen, so they just immediately start attacking you, either to get the counters off of it or to kill you.
Yeah, and usually it's not even warranted because, you kind of got to be in magical Christmas land if you're going to actually get to 10 counters on this. That is, unless you're playing it in an Atraxa deck, in which case you deserve for everyone to hit you. So.
But even there, it's kind of slow. I mean, your
Atraxa's. Yeah, you could just be proliferating.
But
yeah,
10 is so many.
You could also be proliferating poison counters, loyalty counters, +1/+1 counters. There's better things to be doing.
All right. That's all I have to say about this card. Do you want to say anything else about this card?
No.
All right. Next is your card.
Okay, so I have selected Anger. The card name is just Anger. 3 in a red for a creature incarnation, 2/2 with haste. As long as Anger is in your graveyard and you control a mountain, creatures you control have haste. Now, I just think that there are better options for giving yourself haste, or giving your team haste, mostly in the form of enchantments, but I might honest to God play Crashing Drawbridge before this, which is like a 2-mana 0/3 wall that taps to give everything haste. And I just feel like this folds immediately to Graveyard Hate, and the thing about Graveyard Hate is a lot of the time, it's just going to hit you incidentally. Or not necessarily incidentally, but it's just going to be like, oh, I need to play my Bojuka Bog, so I guess I'll exile your graveyard even though you just have Anger in there or something. Or I need to play my Bogart Trawler, and I guess I'll hit your graveyard because you've got Anger in there. I just think the enchantment versions of this effect do it so much better. And you also have to make room in your deck to get it into the graveyard. And in some decks, like Aristocrats, that's not going to be difficult. But I mean, if you're relying on asking your opponent, "Hey, can you block my anger for me?" Any like smart opponent is going to say, "No, I'll just take 2 damage." Because
I thought you were a little bit crazy at first, but then I remembered all of the games I've seen where people go, "I'll pay 4 mana, cast Anger, and I'll swing. Please block it." And like, if you're like discarding it or milling it, it's not awful, but like, I never
yeah,
see that happening. I've never seen it discarded. I've never seen it milled. Every time it's been played, people go, "I'll cast it for 4 mana and hope it dies, I guess."
yeah, and like, God help you if someone casts a Farewell,
Exactly.
Which, I mean, you can say that about Farewell generally because that card is silly, but
I just think you have to be in like a draw discard or a mill theme to make this card work. And most decks
yeah,
are not playing draw
no,
discard, and most decks aren't playing mill. All right. Anything else you
yeah,
want to
or
say?
like, I don't know, maybe something like Jaxis would be okay with this because that's like also a discard effect. And I will say in mono red, the options for enchantments that grant haste are a little bit slimmer, weirdly, because a lot of them are in like uh, Gruul, or there's the new Izzet one in Dragonstorm, or Temur Ascendancy. But it's just, I don't know how many of these effects you need, and this is like the 4th best one, I think.
Yeah, it's like I'd rather just play like the enchantment one that gives your legendaries a boost
Yep,
above this
the
one.
Lord of the Rings one, Rising of the Day or something, I think.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to say about this
Yeah.
card?
You got anything else?
I don't think so. On to my
No, I
next.
don't, and it doesn't sound like you do either. So
I just think this card's kind of hot garbage. And it's a little bit expensive too. Alright, my next card, Replicating Ring. A colorless snow artifact for 3 mana. Add 1 mana of any color. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a night counter on Replicating Ring. Then, if it has 8 or more night counters on it, remove all of them and create 8 colorless snow artifact tokens named Replicating Ring with add 1 mana of any color. You have any thoughts on this card?
I think this card is really funny in Roxanne Starfall Savant. Otherwise, I don't know if I'm playing it.
I just think it's really, really slow. So if you play it on turn 2, it takes 9 turns for it to go off. And that's just really slow. And people are like,
Yeah.
and if you ever even get close, people are either gonna start attacking you or just blow it up with artifact removal. I think
Yeah.
the only
Uh,
deck that
Even
has,
like in response.
yeah, they'll go, "Oh, you have uh, 8 counters on it. I'm gonna cast a braid and destroy it. That way it
Yeah.
doesn't pop." And it's just really slow. And I think there's a lot better 3 mana rocks.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if you're in a snow theme, or again, if you're like proliferating, maybe, but even
But
there.
yeah, even there, it's really slow. All right, that's all I wanted to say about this card. You got any more hot takes on this card?
Um, Not on this card specifically. I will say I think it's like funny that your cards have been from uh Strixhaven and then Kaldheim, when kind of that whole year of standard was just kind of maybe not infamously weak, but it felt very weak coming off the heels of like Ikoria, War of the Spark, Theros Beyond Death, those cracked sets. But
Hey, hey, hey! I chose other sets too. All
I
right.
know, I know.
Next card, your card.
Yes. And just hear me out on this. Sir Conrad the Grim, Uh, 3 black for a legendary creature, Human Knight, 5/4. Whenever another creature dies, or a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the battlefield, or a creature leaves your graveyard, Sir Conrad the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent. And then he also has, for 1 and a black, each player mills a card. That's not a tap ability, so you can do it infinitely. Or, well, you can do it as many times as you have mana to pay into it, which might be infinite if you're making infinite mana. And that's where I'll start with this card being a problem. Because a lot of people see this and immediately assume you are going to do some infinite mana, like, kill combo thing. So this is a very kill on sight creature, which I think is part of the problem with it. But Jam, what do you think?
I mean, I think it draws a lot of attention when it hits the board, and people are like, "Oh no, Sir Conrad, we gotta kill that." So the turn you play Sir Conrad, you kind of have to try to win with it.
Yeah, if you're playing it fairly. Or if you're not playing it fairly. And kind of God help you if you are.
If you're playing it fairly, it's just like everybody wants to blow it up or copy it.
Yeah.
I once had somebody go, "Oh, that's scary. I'm gonna copy it and then blow it up." I think
Yeah.
you have to try to like basically win on the spot as soon as you cast this card.
Yeah, which isn't impossible. In my Grist deck, one of the lines for either killing or just doing a lot of damage is casting this and then a mass recursion spell to bring a bunch of creatures out of the graveyard to get a bunch of triggers of his last ability and just ping everyone a bunch. But even in that deck, I've been kind of unimpressed with it. I do think, like, it's too slow if you're just playing it as a blood artist, and you need to either, as you said, win with it immediately or be taking advantage of 2 or more of its modes.
Yeah, I don't think you ever want to be playing this as a blood artist. I think you want to either be putting cards in the graveyard or taking them out. If you're playing this as a blood artist effect, God help us all.
Yeah.
All right. Next card on the list is going to be my card. No Mercy. 2 black. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to you, destroy it. And now most people go, "I love Power Forward effects. How are you going to tell me not to jam Power Forward effects?" And I'm like, this is not as good of a teleport effect as most people think. Because guess what? Most people aren't going to attack you unless they're alpha striking you. Crazy, am I right? And then there's also non-combat damage. And then there's also aristocrats decks that are just going to be like, "Oh, you have a No Mercy? I really want my sacrifice triggers."
I will say I've literally never seen anyone cast this spell. Like, when I was putting my cards on this PowerPoint the other day, that was the first time I've ever seen this card that I can remember, anyways.
I've seen this jammed in a deck, and I was like, "Why aren't you just playing Kroskin Falls?" And like, see, I've played against this deck, and every time it's dropped on me, I just go, "Okay, I'm gonna cast my card that deals non-combat damage and win that way." And they go, "Ugh, I don't have a removal spell. All I have is this janky teleport effect." So I have played against this card, and I've won against it every time, I think.
Yeah, I mean, even like one of the first things I thought of when I saw this was Revenge of Ravens from original Eldraine, which is whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, that creature's controller you loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. It's also a 4 mana black enchantment. Honestly, I think it might be better than this a little bit. At least if you're using it for the pillow fort thing, because at least it doesn't feed the aristocrats player, you know?
I think Coruscant Falls is the best version of this
Yeah.
card, which is 4 mana at the beginning of your upkeep. Tap an untapped creature or sacrifice it. Each time somebody wants to attack you, they have to pay. I think it's 2.
Oh.
I think it's 2.
So it's just like a propaganda ghostly prison in black, but a little bit worse because it's outside the color pie. Okay.
Yeah, because it's outside the color pie, so. But if you're in black and you have no other effects, I would play Coruscant Falls if you're just like in a mono black deck and you want pull for effects because you're like a Starscream deck or whatever. But I wouldn't run this in a Starscream deck. I'm being honest.
No.
I just run a
I don't know.
Effect above
this.
All right.
Yeah.
Next card is your card.
Okay. Goblin Electromancer. A blue and a red for a creature goblin wizard 2/2. Instant and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less. So, elephant in the room with this. Last year they printed a card called Stormcatch Mentor. That is this, but it's an otter 1/1 prowess haste. Same effect. And I think that's just going to be a lot better in most contexts. Like, it's not, you're not playing either of these cards in Commander for the purpose of, like, swinging at people, but, you might want to do that incidentally, and if you do, I think that Stormcatch Mentor is just going to be a lot better because of the haste, and it can deal the same damage or more as Electromancer if you just fire off some stuff before or during combat. But the other thing is I'm just not very convinced by this effect. I feel like it's at its best with like 2 mana instants and sorceries that have 1 generic pip in their cost. But, counterspell, is it charm? There's a lot of things that this just doesn't work with that you otherwise would probably want to run in a Spellslinger deck. And I don't think this card is terrible. I just think it's a little bit overrated. And also people do get scared of it, from what I've seen at least.
I was going to bash you, but then I remembered that other cards like Baral, Chief of Compliance exist. There's a 2 mana Drake that also does this. It's in blue. Huh. It's 1 in a blue, and it has instants and sorceries cost 1 less to cast, and you can pay 3 mana to copy your spells. To copy a spell if you sacrifice the Drake. And then I was like, wait, this is just the worst version of those effects, because like there's like quite a few versions of this effect in the colors that this is in, and so this is always like the one I cut the fastest.
Yep.
Just because all the others have like some sort of upside, whether that be prowess or actually providing some sort of colored mana, or flying, or the ability to copy spells. This one's always like, and like all of these effects are like around the same price too. In fact, I think this one might be like the most expensive version of it. Despite being the worst version of it, just because it's like so popular. Although it's not that expensive.
No, not at all. Part of my research for this week's episode was looking at like, just the top cards category on EDHREC. And this was above Stormcatch Mentor, and I don't even think I saw like Baral or the Drake you were talking about. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe if you care about goblins specifically, but in blue-red, I find that skeptical. Also, it's a Spellslinger card, so even if you do, I don't know.
I agree. I think this one's not very good, and I think we should. I don't have any more things to say about this card. Do you?
No.
Alright. This is my card. It's one in a blue for a card instant reality shift. Exile target creature. Its controller manifests the top card of their library. And manifesting is that player puts the top card of their battlefield onto the battlefield face down as a 2/2 creature. If it's a creature card, it can be turned face up for any time for its manifest cost. And my first thought when I saw this card in the EDH Rec Top 100 is, where's Resculpt? Where's the aura effect of this card that's 3 mana that has Storm?
Yeah, Amphion Downpour, I think, or even just like Pongify or like Frogify.
This
This
one of
one,
the top most played blue cards, and like there's like a million effects that are like better than it.
yeah. I mean, I will say, in comparison to like some of the cards with a similar effect to this, at least this one exiles, which can be nice. But I just think there's a lot of ways this can go very wrong for you. Um, and they're just better versions of the effect. You might say like, oh, Resculpt makes a 4/4, or Pongify makes a 3/3. That's going to be more damage, but you have 40 life.
Yeah,
That doesn't matter.
Commander is a 40 life format, giving your opponent a 4/4 for the upside of being able to exile an artifact as well is really
Yep.
good. Because
Yeah,
blue.
gotta kill that replicating ring.
Gotta kill that Strixhaven Stadium. Can't let it get
Oh,
the
you
10
know it.
point counters on it. Yeah, there's just like effects that are like either at sorcery speed but lock down the commander, at instant speed have but they only destroy but they're a mana cheaper, and I just think this card is crazy for being so high up in the blue.
Yeah. Did they give this new art for Tarkir? Oh, well.
Did they give it new art for Tarkir? I don't know.
It looks Tarkir. It's got the Tarkir set symbol on, like, there's scales on it, so I would assume, but, well, I mean, it is using Manifest, so this might be original Tarkir. It doesn't matter. I'm just trying to be an art nerd.
Also, something to note is that you can turn the manifest face up, which is like if
Yeah.
it's a creature.
No, that's what I meant by it can go very wrong for you. Like, I don't know, if you like let them flip up a Darksteel Colossus or something. Obviously, that's like the worst case scenario, but there's a lot of less innocuous but still bad things. Like, oh, I flipped up my Toski, or I flipped up like my, I don't know. What's a good creature that doesn't have an ETB? Because this does get rid of ETBs on those creatures at least, but
Beast
still not great.
Whisperer.
Yeah, Beast Whisperer.
And also the creature was already there, so it has like so it doesn't have, well, if someone exiles the creature before your turn, by the time it comes back to your turn, the creature will no longer have summoning sickness. So if you're playing an infect deck, you just flip up your infect creature and go bam. Alright. I don't have any more to say about this card. You want to move on to the next one?
Yeah, let's move on to the next one.
Moldavine. Oh, this is your card. My bad.
Yes. No, that's okay. Moldavine Reclamation. 3 black green enchantment. Whenever a creature you control dies, you gain 1 life and draw a card. This is a 5 mana enchantment that does nothing to impact the board state the turn it comes down. Which is never a good thing to be in Magic the Gathering, even in Commander.
Yeah, this is like a card that you have to be in Aristocrats to play. And if you're in Aristocrats, there's better versions of this effect for cheaper.
Yep.
Granted, they're not on a enchantment, but like 5 mana is a lot, because I feel like Aristocrats is a very like low curve type of deck, and like your chart toppers have to be like extremely impactful. And like this isn't even that impactful because it does nothing when it comes down, and there's creatures that do similar effects for just so much cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, there's like Dark Prophecy at 3 mana, which admittedly that is triple black, but it's whenever a creature you control dies, you draw a card and lose 1 life. But 3 mana is just such a better rate for that. And also, you're probably you're not necessarily casting it on turn 3, so like you have time to find your third black pit. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's just really expensive, and like you said, part of the thing that makes Aristocrats like a pretty effective strategy, in my mind, as someone who plays a good amount of Aristocrats, is that you can be a low slung and like grindier with it, play a lot of cheaper creatures, um,
Well,
which you don't often get to do in Commander.
a lot of aristocrats decks will sometimes like share a creature type, so species specialist comes down at 4
Yeah.
mana. A lot of aristocrats decks aren't always trying to win in one great big giant turn. So there's this one that whenever a creature dies, you draw a card, lose 1 life. This effect only triggers once each turn, which I think is better.
Yeah.
But
Morbid Opportunist, I believe.
if you're playing a lot of non-creatures, there's one that does it for 3 mana. Although sometimes
Mm-hmm.
aristocrats decks are tokens, but
Yeah.
if you're in a non-token aristocrats sort of theme, I think that one's better. I just think there's
Yeah.
better effects depending on like what your theme is, because most aristocrats decks are gonna fit into some sort of theme.
Yeah, and like even if you do want like a more expensive version of this effect, just play Liliana Dreadhorde General. She does this without the life gain, I guess, but and also is an entire planeswalker. And you can say, "Oh, my opponents can attack it." You're an aristocrat. Block with your little dorks.
Yeah, you're an aristocrat, so you want to like already be wiping the board anyways. You want to
Yep.
block with your dorks anyways. And Liliana has a minus that makes everyone sack creatures, which
Yes.
helps protect her.
Mm-hmm. You can spit out tokens for you too. I
Yeah,
don't know. Just
don't play this card. Trust us.
please don't.
Alright, this is, I think, my last card. It's 3 and a blue, Aetherize, instant. Return all attacking creatures to their owner's hands. Do you think I'm crazy for this?
Um, I will say, as someone who does a decent amount of token stuff, like I'm never really happy to see this card, but also as someone who's played against a lot of Settle the Wreckage, I'm never that sad to see it either. I think it's a decent option, but you can also just play Propaganda, which is a mana cheaper. You don't have to hold up the mana for it, and it does a pretty similar thing to this.
I'd rather just
Yeah,
play a 4 mana return all creatures to their owner's hands at sorcery speed.
yeah, that's fine too.
Because, like, it does the same thing, basically.
Yeah. But again, you don't have to hold up the mana for it. 4 mana is kind of a lot to hold up. Unless you're doing, like, Seedborn Muse stuff, I guess.
Yeah, and when people see you holding up 4 mana, they're just gonna go, "Wow, I bet you have an Aetherize over there." And then your opponent's like, "No, I don't have an Aetherize," and so you just go, "Yeah, I'm not gonna get my board balanced."
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think one thing I can say for Aetherize that I can't say for most of the other cards we've talked about today is at least this card can save your life in some situations. Like, if your opponent drops a Crater Hoof, you can save potentially the entire table, but you might not necessarily want to do that. I don't know. I think it's fine, but there are better versions of this effect, in my opinion.
I think there's better versions of this effect, and the fact that this was like above most of them is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's in EDH Top 100, which is where I've spent
Yeah.
most of my time looking. Because I'm like, what are players playing that I think is absolutely crazy? And there were some wild picks up in there.
Yeah. That's like I said, I was on like the EDH rec top cards, and I tried to do things that were 5% or more played by like EDH rec data averaging. But I think that's all we have to say about this card. So let's go ahead and go to the next one. Deflecting Palm. This breaks my heart. I will say this is not a very widely played card, but it is a pet card of mine. And unfortunately, I have recently had the revelation that it is just not that good. But I should tell you what it does first. Deflecting Palm is for a red and a white, an instant that says, the next time a source of your choice would deal damage to you this turn, prevent that damage. If damage is prevented this way, Deflecting Palm deals that much damage to that source's controller. I wanted to play this in Commander after seeing it do stuff in Modern, where in like the Burn Mirror, it can just be a, you know, fifth through eighth copy of Lightning Helix. And I was like, people love to play big creatures in Commander, so this will be great there, but no, it mostly just sits in your hand. The most I've ever done with it is like reflect 12 damage at someone, which isn't bad. You know, that's a 24-point life swing, but we're in a 40 health format. And by 40 health, I mean 120 health because you have 3 opponents. So, not great. You could probably do some funny stuff with Isochron Scepter or something, but at that point, I don't think that's in the spirit of the card. You know? What are your thoughts, Jam?
I think if this gained you life, it would be a good card. But it doesn't, so it's a bad card.
Like, gained you life instead of preventing the damage? Or instead of reflecting the damage? Or what?
On top
Or just
of.
in addition? Well, yeah, the card would be better if it had additional text. That is how that tends to work. Yeah, I guess I will say this doesn't work in life gain strategies, which does suck a little bit.
It just feels like it only hits one source of damage,
Yep.
so it's usually like a really big creature, and like sure some people have really big creatures, but like most of the time people go wider more than they go tall.
Yeah.
And like
I mean, if you're like trying to counter deck someone that just plays a lot of Voltron, I guess this might be funny, but I don't condone that behavior.
I think there's just like cards that deal similar effects while also hitting more strategies. Like there's fog effects in white. They don't redirect the damage, but they help against a wide board where this only hits one big creature, and I'm just like,
yeah. Or like Settle the Wreckage, which I mentioned earlier, which does also a lot of ramping, but I think it makes up for it in how you get to watch the light leave your opponent's eyes in real time, especially if they're in a lot of colors, so they don't like have a bunch of basics to go fetch.
If you ever cast Settle the Wreckage against me, I'm gonna win the game.
I mean, you know, like I've said before, I'm an Ixalan era gamer, so I think of Ixalan and the cards that were in standard with it a lot, disproportionately, because that's just the specific type of Magic the Gathering Toxoplasmosis that I have.
Well, I think that's all the cards that we had on the list today. Is there anything else
you
want to say?
I will say another thing about Deflecting Palm that breaks my heart is that it's bad against like Storm, or even one of the first things that made me disillusioned with it was losing to Borborygmos Enraged. I believe it was because they just dumped a hand of lands to his ability to deal 3 damage to me a bunch of times, and I was like, oh, this is a Lightning Helix basically, and Lightning Helix is sadly not that good in Commander when it can't hit creatures.
Well, thank you for tuning into our podcast today. And remember,
Yeah.
always drive safe.